So this is on YouTube. I'm just going to throw it out there in case anybody's out there watching. We were having some connectivity issues with the video. Please try and sign back on to the Zoom link again if you are watching this video. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. I'll be right back.
So Jeffrey, I know Chelsea is going to attend. Hopefully she'll be signed on here shortly, and then you will have your quorum.
I guess it's not appropriate to ask for a motion to continue at this point since there's not a quorum.
We can thank
Just kidding.
We can thank our
Jeffrey, I miss
colleagues
your
with
beard.
Horn and Hard Art Denver for the quorum.
Meow.
Aw, Cindy, you have a cat. I love your kitty cat. What a pretty kitty.
He's a good guy.
I'm a big fan of cats. Hi, kitty. Looks like Sylvester. I thought I saw a putty cat.
Yeah, he's a good guy. We went to the office today, and so I was gone all day. So he's actually being affectionate.
Cute. Very cute.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Jeffrey, with Chelsea joining, I'm going to start with and you're a go.
Good evening. It is June 1st. It is Tuesday, June 1st. It's 5:01 p.m. Apologies for our tardiness in achieving quorum this evening. We have one matter before us. Present from Planning and Zoning, we have Suzanne Caskey, Monty Thompson, Joe Kraybacher, Chelsea Clark, and myself, Jeffrey Woodruff. From staff, we have Suzanne Wolf, Bonnie Shiles, Ryan Neely, and Cindy Hubin, and said Cat. From the applicant, we have again one item on the agenda this evening. We have Tom Todd with Holland and Hart, Denver, Heather Henry with Connect One, Raina Dershowitz, Aspen Skiing Company, David Corbin, Aspen Skiing Company, and Mac Keeling. Again, we have a quorum. We have called to order commissioner comments unrelated to this evening's resolution recommending approval of the Aspen Skiing Company Master Plan, Activity Envelope, and Site Plan Review. Any commissioner comments? I've got one, which is last week or a fortnight ago, 2 weeks ago, we approved a GMQS application for Starwood floor area. And again, that resolution will not be signed until the affordable housing language is removed. So the application likely will face employee impact fee or employee housing fee and has nothing to do, the award had nothing to do with affordable housing mitigation. So please update that resolution if you want Planning and Zoning to sign that resolution. Any other commissioner comments unrelated to Aspen Skiing Company? Any public comment, or sorry, staff comments unrelated to Aspen Skiing Company? Cindy.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say that the Board of County Commissioners has decided to re-advertise for the open planning and zoning position. So they will be re-advertising for that position. Just wanted to let you know that. Thank you.
Who left?
Well, the board appointed, made some reappointments, and they actually appointed someone who could not take the position after all. So they have another seat available. And
That would be Justin.
yeah, Justin cannot take the position.
Mm. That's what happens when you don't live in Pickens County, I guess, right?
No, I think he lived in Pickens County. I think it was an office policy.
Oh, I see. Tom was responsible for that then.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice move, Tom. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Any other staff comments? Public comments unrelated to this evening's agenda. So we have one land use action item, which is a resolution recommending approval of the Aspen Mountain Ski Area rezoning, ski rec master plan amendment, activity envelope and site plan review, and certifying the zoning plan to the Board of County Commissioners. Suzanne Wolf.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Welcome, everyone. I'll give a little short background, and then Heather's going to be nice enough to actually do the graphics side of things to sort of reorient everyone as to the rezoning area, in the specific area that we're talking about. But I think for the most part, most of you have been along through this whole process. But so what's in front of you today is a resolution recommending approval of the Aspen Mountain Ski Area rezoning, ski rec master plan amendment, activity envelope and site plan review, and certifying the zoning plan to the Board of County Commissioners. So this is basically for the portion of the ski area that for Pandora's that was bifurcated out of the master plan that went forward in 2019. The P&Z had made a recommendation of approval of the rezoning and master plan elements related to Pandora's in their 2019 resolution. But then that when the BOCC moved forward with the resolution, Pandora's was excluded from that. So what's in front of you today is basically a new resolution that incorporates the work that had been done before back in 2019 by the P&Z with regard to the ski area improvements in Pandora's, the rezoning, related to the terrain. There's a new access road that goes into the new lift, putting a ski patrol cabin up on Richmond Ridge, up near the new top lift terminal. All of those pieces were part of the original application that then, was not acted upon by the BOCC. So essentially what has changed in the resolution now are the findings based on the amendments the Planning Commission adopted to the East Aspen Master Plan, which informed additional findings with regard to the rezoning as well as the master plan amendments for Pandora's. So I think, again, I wasn't going to walk through the whole resolution. I'm happy to answer questions you all have, but I think just really to point out that a lot of this resolution looks very similar to what you saw and adopted in 2019. Obviously, adding in the additional findings with what has happened since that time. After you saw it in 2019, it went on to the BOCC, and then including the findings about consistency with that East Aspen Independence Pass Master Plan. Additionally, I guess the language, there has been language included in the resolution that I guess comes out of some of those discussions with the BOCC with regard to the zoning, and is language that was presented to the BOCC at that time, but basically limits the uses within the area. And I think that's an important thing. That the Ski Co has committed that these are the only uses they are asking for as part of, with the rezoning and the master plan, the subsequent master plan amendment. So there is a finding on page 3 of the resolution, finding number 13, that speaks to only the following uses and development may be established. That language is also followed through in a condition number 3 on page 5. So again, this was the intent here, was really to be very specific about the limited uses that are contemplated and are being approved within this area. And so that's alpine ski area and support, Nordic ski area and support facilities, public utilities, major, minor, and logging. And those would be the only things that were accommodated. And then it continues to specify construction, maintenance, operation of a ski lift, a ski patrol facility, water service facilities and electric service facilities, limited grading and earth moving associated with lift towers and terminals, establishment and use of ski trails, limited timbering and tree removal, construction of limited access roads and access ways to facilitate lift construction, and the establishment of the ski patrol facility. I think that shows up twice. But again, this was the intent there, was to capture the commitment that the Ski Co has made and incorporate that into the resolution. So other than that, I don't know that there was anything specific I planned to point out. Again, happy to answer questions. And obviously this feels a little awkward given that much of the volumes of information that have gone into this, really, most of that was presented to you back in 2019 through, I think, the 4 meetings that we had with the Planning Commission. So happily, we have a number of you who were, a part of that whole discussion at the time. But again, I think I would stop there and happy to answer any questions you all have for me.
Commissioner, questions for Suzanne? So Suzanne, the document that we previously saw, which was in the April 20th meeting, page 219 outlined all of the verboten or prohibited uses, and this resolution seems like a watered down version of the same. So the past resolution did a better job at outlining and clarifying that we wouldn't have daycare or housing or anything else. And that was in the packet on April 20th. It seems like it's no longer in this resolution. So this resolution seems a little watered down from limited use. And the next question might be better for the Aspen Skiing Company, but the follow-up is the window for development is May 1 to June 21, which means this year is likely out given the wildlife concerns. So with a 3-year vest, does that mean they only have 2 years potentially available to do construction on Pandora? And that's the way I read the current resolution. So I'm not saying that's the intent, but that's the way it currently reads. So a 2-part question.
Jeffrey, I'll start with the dates you just mentioned. Construction has to occur outside. So it could occur starting June 21st and through.
Okay. My error.
Okay. So yeah.
So they do have 3 years, basically. The same way you would a vest on any other project, they have 3 years for construction. That's the intent.
Right. And the vesting is right. Just the activity envelope and site plan approval. But right.
But it's sort of a pacing question. So yes, we'd like to see that construction take place over the next 3 years. It could take place in 2021 outside of these wildlife dates.
Right. It could if they were, but they still have to go on to the BOCC with all of it.
Understood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then again, I think the essence was that number 13 seems like a watered down version of what we saw in the April 20th memo, which was explicit and sort of codified what Aspen Skiing Company said they would not do, even though they know they're working in the permitted use within ski rec is much greater than what they're currently operating under in rural and remote and AR10. And what I read of the 2019 memo from the BOCC that was then handed back down to us was that the goal was to maintain that sort of same limited disturbance that we currently enjoy under rural and remote and AR10, even though we're going to a more permissive zoning, which is ski rec. It's the same question I asked at first, which is we're not listing out, we're not doing baby daycare and hotels on the backside of Aspen Mountain.
And I guess, Jeffrey, I'm not clear what document that was in the April 20th packet.
So it's page 219 of page 342 of the packet. And it basically notes that the ski rec zone district allows for potential for duplex, multifamily, single family, farming, which may include hemp, logging, ranching, daycare centers. So that was the last time, that was the memo, it looks like was from the memo that went to the BOCC or the reso that went to the BOCC. So it's page 219 of 342, which seemed like it did a better job at outlining, look, we're just doing a new lift and trail maintenance, et cetera. And again, what didn't appear in this memo that was in the last packet or the April 20th packet was the stuff that we're not doing, which again, David alluded to. But this, again, I'm just saying this resolution doesn't seem as strong as what we had 2 months ago.
And I guess, again, 2 months ago, it wasn't in a resolution to you. I mean, I understand your point.
It was the reso that went in front of the BOCC.
Okay. So I think our point here was to try and be very specific about what is permitted, I guess, with the understanding that this is all that's allowed.
Okay.
And maybe Rye can help me with that in terms of, if that's the sort of the permissive side versus the, exclusive, if it's important to also specify, I think my concern would be, again, I don't have that document in front of me. I'd have to dig it out of my digital world here.
It's sort of
does it include everything, or would we risk, do we risk missing things too if we try and list all of the things that you can't do as well as can do? Again, I understand your point, but I don't have the specific document in front of me.
Yeah, so I'm happy to pull it up. So Jeffrey, it's in the recitals, Suzanne. So it's in, the early recitals that basically, yes, the BOCC kind of came back and said, well, here's what rural and remote is, et cetera. And so it's the listing of what's allowed in ski rec in total. And then if you go to the actual findings below, that language is almost a direct duplicate of the language you have in the resolution before you. So it wasn't necessarily that one of the findings was prohibiting it. It was recognizing that here are all the uses that are allowed in ski rec. And then the actual findings in that draft ordinance look exactly like the language that you guys have in front of you in the actual findings of the resolution. So kind of nuanced, Jeffrey, but right. Certainly if it makes sense to document the rest of the land uses, we were sensitive to the fact of just being careful that then if it's not on the prohibited list, does it end up in this gray area versus if it's not recognized in your actual findings, it's not an allowable use. But we would support either direction.
And I'm happy with either direction. I went back to see sort of what was tabled at the BOCC and say, okay, are you up against those same stumbling blocks? Because when you read the resolution, it's not that much different from where we are today with an amended master plan, with an amended East of Aspen master plan. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just sort of rolling the tape forward in terms of this approval and codifying this agreement. And if everyone's saying we're happy with, here's the intended use, then I'm happy to move forward with the way this is written and drafted.
Well, and Jeffrey, I mean, again, if you feel like you'd be more comfortable adding in language, I mean, that's always, within your purview on the P&Z to propose that, to include that.
If I might add, it's from the applicant's point of view, I understand maybe the sensitivity to it. I would agree with Heather. I think the permissive uses that are being described are accurate. And I would just remind everybody that with respect to mountain master plans and how they're treated in the code, at the culmination of those, you're left with permissible uses that are allowed all year, uses that are allowed in winter, uses that are allowed in summer, uses that require further special review. And expressly, any use not specifically permitted is prohibited for purposes of the mountain master plan and our uses in ski rec. And you find that time after time across all of our mountains that have mountain master plans adopted pursuant to the code. So I think just by the very nature of what's in the mountain master plan and what's not, literally dictates, what an impermissible use might be. It's anything not expressly permitted and described in the plan. So I think it's covered in a variety of ways.
Any other commissioner questions or comments for Suzanne before we move over to Heather? Heather, the floor is all yours.
Right. I'm going to share a screen. See if that works. I'll see that without the notes version. Super. All right, David, would you like to kick
Yeah,
us
are you
off?
going to bring up the slide? There we go. As Suzanne mentioned, I think you've probably got about 2,000 pages of documents in your record at this point. So the applicant promises not to burden you with an exhaustive presentation or more exhibits at this point in time. We believe that the staff report accurately and correctly describes our stated request and the applicant's proposal, which really boils down to a request to rezone 35.28 acres from AR10 to ski rec, which you see depicted in the green here in kind of the lower left quadrant, and to rezone approximately 131.83 acres of rural and remote land to ski rec, which is largely in top center. These properties are comprised of both public and private lands, as you see in the descriptions here, and as we've discussed at some length in the past. We obviously also are seeking to amend or solicit your recommendation and approval to amend the mountain master plan to include the Pandora's terrain, which you see sort of at the bottom of this slide and extending up through the area to be rezoned. Some of that terrain, again, already existing, Walshes and so forth, but about 153 acres of which is new terrain with new ski improvements in terms of developed trails and a lift, which is depicted in the red line that Heather's pointing out right here. That's really the sum and substance of the application. And obviously we are also seeking an affirmation of the activity envelopes, which were in part included in our initial application, and which in the course of our process have been further detailed, and which we can show you here today and put in the record. Otherwise, the proposed physical plan, the terrain and the lift improvements that you see here remain as first proposed and described and submitted in our initial application more than 2 years ago now. We believe we've clarified and provided additional information in our recent hearings and our supplemental materials regarding changes in use or increased activity in this area, as well as the extensive materials that Holland and Hart provided in their memorandum that describe the history and intent of prior land use plans and zoning, all of which we believe bolster and support our request to rezone. The amendments that this board recently passed to the east of Aspen Independence Pass master plan, we think further clarify the compatibility of the proposed mountain plan and zoning with the county's comprehensive plan. And as to the intent or purpose of the proposed ski area improvements, we think they have been described in detail in our supplemental materials and in prior hearings, and are perhaps most dispassionately described in the Forest Service decision notice, which approved the project some time ago. The last items to reconfirm again and just make sure we're in the record are the activity envelopes with which Heather will describe.
Thanks, David. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background to the activity envelopes just because I think it's helpful after a few years to kind of retrace our steps. So when P&Z saw the application, you had the master plan and the rezoning kind of together in obviously one packet, one big application, all of the information together. So at that point, the activity envelopes throughout all of the master plan essentially were included in that process. At the time, for the existing Aspen Mountain, what we were doing, because activity envelopes had never been set on the mountain, we were actually kind of retracing and placing activity envelopes around existing structures, larger kind of activity envelopes that were on the existing mountain. So for example, Ruthie's had an activity envelope set around the restaurant itself, in the hopes of, in the master plan, there were some improvements to be made, et cetera. There were some things within that activity envelope that ultimately got pulled out at BOCC. We placed an activity envelope around the top of the mountain and the sun deck. What we didn't do throughout the course of the rest of the mountain was we did not place activity envelopes around every lift terminal or lift alignments or access and construction roads, et cetera. When Pandora's was a part of that application, there was a greater level of scrutiny and sort of desire to make sure that the activities were concentrated in activity envelopes. So as you all passed on the master plan and the rezoning resolution and recommendation for approval to the BOCC, activity envelope for the top of Pandora's was included. And then we were kind of drafting and the resolution said, okay, final activity envelope will be recorded before anything can happen on the access road to Pandora's and the bottom terminal. As we got to BOCC, all those activity envelopes were included in their initial draft form. And then throughout the course of the process, the access road, now referred to as Lazy Boy, but it's essentially the access road to the bottom terminal of Pandora's. We were kind of drafting that activity envelope, getting to this place. The project ended up bifurcated. And so, final activity envelopes were never set forth, even in front of the BOCC. So this activity envelope that you see in front of you right now is the one that was included right from the very beginning. It's actually an extension of the sun deck, the top of the mountain activity envelope. So the one that encompasses the top of the gondola, the sun deck, all of the summer activities that you see, the main patrol, everything else is within that. And so this actually connects here at the edges to the existing recorded sun deck activity envelope. Okay, and so this is the draft one that kind of had been proposed all along. And then the second one, so this is the draft activity envelope now for the base. So the bottom terminal of Pandora's would be located here. And then this is the sort of working final design for Lazy Boy, so the access road to the bottom of the terminal. Okay, and so this activity envelope now would encompass all of the grading, et cetera, required for the Lazy Boy access road. So this is draft form. We'll have to finalize as MAC tweaks, final construction, et cetera. We get to BOCC, we would make sure everything was encompassed in this, and then this would be the recorded final version. So this is a little new just from the perspective of final road alignment and final draft activity envelope. Any questions?
Commissioner, questions for Heather?
Because that's kind of the gist of our presentation. So if you have any questions on what David talked about or I talked about.
Can you just touch on the relationship between the bottom alignment and North Star Nature Preserve and, still protecting the preserve from the new ski operations, I guess would be my one question, given this this presentation.
From the perspective of view shed protection, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I mean, we did view corridor, I think, you know,
We did, yeah.
and
Yeah.
extensive in 2018, 2019. No, it's really just preventing sort of misuse between the two activities, you know, keeping North Star Preserve pristine and not, you know, sort of accessing Pandora from Highway 82, I guess would be the question.
Accessing from 82 would require a pretty significant stream crossing, meadow crossing, and then, you know, uphilling on the east aspect of Aspen Mountain, you know, through timber at very steep grades.
Unlikely is the answer.
Yeah, I don't.
Highly unlikely.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think many people would try that. Certainly in terms of our operations up here, you know, it happens occasionally that somebody will jump that rope and try to ski to valley floor, but that happens quite rarely. And we try to manage the terrain and sign it so that it's quite clear that's not considered an appropriate activity to go out of bounds or dangerously put yourself in a position where you may need to be rescued. So all of our operational constraints and management techniques would continue, and we certainly would not encourage other access from the valley floor or leaving the ski area to go to the valley floor from the lift location.
Great. Any other commissioner questions or comments for Heather or David based on the draft envelope?
Jeffrey, if there are none, we have no additional presentation. We're exhausted in terms of the material that we can give you. So that's all we have. And we certainly appreciate the staff's drafting of the resolution and their recommendation to support its approval. And we're prepared to move forward if the commission is.
David and Heather, thank you. Suzanne, anything further? Okay. This is a public meeting. We will open up to any public questions or comments.
I'm gonna call on a Mr. Michael Miracle.
Good evening, Michael.
Michael, can you hear us? Michael? Okay, we're gonna give Michael a moment to try and speak. I'm gonna move on to Scott Condon.
Just observing, thanks.
Okay, and we'll try Michael one more time. Michael, would you wish to comment? Okay, if Michael happens to get his mic back or would like to comment, he may speak up. But at this moment, those are the only two attendees, Jeffrey, that we have on the line.
And I'll leave the public comment open. If Michael does want to chime in, he's welcome to join us. Again, I guess from my own standpoint and consistent with David as well as Suzanne's findings, it's consistent with the federal decisions. It's what we said 2 years ago. Thankfully, the NEPA is not in this packet again. It's consistent with land use, what's proposed, which is it's contiguous to an existing ski area. Again, it's in the resolution, and it's what, I mean, everyone on this phone would agree that we're not looking to create a new ski area. And so, you know, those are, I guess, the strongest points I could see, both from a land use as well as following federal guidelines in terms of this evening's activities. Any other commissioner questions or comments at this point? Very loquacious group. Is everyone ready for a resolution, or does Michael have anything to add or subtract? Any hands? Suzanne Caskey, welcome.
Yes, thank you. I just want to let you know that it would be highly inappropriate, I think, for me to vote on this issue because it's gone on for quite a while and I'm just jumping back in. So when the vote comes, I will abstain.
No, I appreciate it and appreciate your attendance in this evening's matter. Any other questions or comments in terms of the resolution in front of us? I love that everyone else is exhausted except for me. So on page 4 of this evening's packet, we have a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Pitkin County, Colorado, recommending approval of the Aspen Mountain Ski Area rezoning, ski rec master plan amendment, activity envelope and site plan review, and certifying the zoning plan to the Board of County Commissioners of Pitkin County, Colorado. At this point, there are no modifications or changes to the resolutions or the conditions based on this evening's conversations. Do I have a motion? So it's
Yeah, I would make a motion.
Joe, I have a first. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Chelsea, any further discussion? At this point, we have a first and a second. No further discussion. The voting members this evening will be Monty, Joe, Chelsea, and myself, Jeffrey, and Suzanne Caskey will abstain given her limited involvement at this point. And again, thank you for helping in terms of making quorum. One more time, we have a resolution of the Planning and Zoning Commission of Pitkin County, Colorado, recommending approval of the Aspen Mountain Ski Area rezoning, ski rec master plan amendment, activity envelope and site plan review, and certifying the zoning plan to the Board of County Commissioners of Pitkin County, Colorado. All of those in favor? Joe?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Joe Kraybacher.
Yes.
Joe Kraybacher, Chelsea Clark?
Yes.
Monty Thompson?
Yes.
And Jeffrey Woodruff is also a yes. It is unanimous. Thank you both to staff as well as SKICO, Connect One, and Holland and Hart, again, for their effort and working through the process over the last 3 years. I think we started this again in 2018. So thank you for all of your time and effort and attention to detail and care and love for the backcountry. So we appreciate your time and effort. Anything further in front of planning and zoning this evening? Michael Miracle.
He's with us. I think he's good.
I know it's nice to see his name, and I'm glad he joined us for this evening. Any further business in front of planning and zoning this June 1st evening? First Tuesday in June. Excellent.
I didn't see whether we have another meeting in 14 more days. Did we?
We don't have anything scheduled on that agenda.
Okay.
And I think the same for the beginning of July. We don't currently have anything scheduled.
Okay.
For our part, thank you very much for your consideration and the recommendations of approval. Thank you.
Good luck with the BOCC.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time, everyone.
Yeah, no, likewise. Likewise. Everyone be well, and we are adjourned. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
It's the BLCC.